Welcome to Combos with Mortgage Peeps, presented by Learn to Lend. I'm Bobby Hanson, and today I'm conversating with Heather Hunter Jackson. Heather's been in the mortgage industry for over 20 years. She's a senior mortgage advisor with Empire Home Loans, serving families in the greater Sacramento area. She's the host of the Loan Hunter podcast, where she breaks down real estate and lending in a way that people can actually understand. And I'm excited about her podcast because it is a masterclass for new to the industry people. The way that she breaks things down, you can actually understand it. So we're gonna talk about that. She's also a busy mom of two girls, doing all the things, and I am so excited to have this conversation with Heather today. So be sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And we're going to get into it. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I am kind of fangirling out just because I've known you for a long time. I worked under you for a minute when I was like, I'm going to be a loan officer. I'm going to do it. And I learned so much from you. And it's been inspiring to watch your career and to just, have you as a mentor. And so I think it's going to be really great. I think loan officers are going to get a ton out of this. And we always start with your origin story. How the heck did you get into the mortgage industry?
Because nobody grows up saying, I want to be a mortgage broker or a realtor.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I think like most, I somewhat stumbled into it. So I had graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a degree in psychology and did a short stint where I moved to New York City, thought I might want to live there, and came back after it was like 5 or 6 months, and came back I'm from Woodland originally. So went back home and was like, okay, what am I going to do? And one of my girlfriends that I had gone to Santa Barbara with, her dad was a mortgage broker in Orangevale, and he needed like an assistant. And so this was November of 2002. And I was like, okay, well, I'm figuring out my life. Am I going to go back to school and get my master's or doctorate? I didn't really know what I wanted to do because all the jobs that I would qualify for in the psych world, they're going to be like $10 an hour working in group home kind of thing. And I was like, is that, what I want? I don't know. So I'm going to go work for this mortgage broker while I figure out what I want to do. And I've never left the business.
So what was your first year like? Like, what were you said you were an assistant, so you started kind of as an LOA.
Yeah, essentially. So it was really interesting. I mean, he was the loan officer. His wife was the mortgage processor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Keeping it in the family.
Yeah, it was interesting. Um, and I and this was back when we had paper files. Like we were getting rate sheets faxed and
Yeah.
to us every morning. Um, and I started just learning how to read income, how to read assets. He did a lot of subprime business. So really it was like watching his interactions with customers, and learning about documentation and what's required, and learning from our reps that would come in to try and get, business sent to them. And I mean, honestly, he was not very organized and some days not motivated to come to work. So sometimes I felt like I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs, but I also, would just look at things and like ask questions of reps and things like that and just kind of figure things out. It's just kind of how I've always been. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, this business, we do a little baptism by fire, it seems like, with everybody. And it's just kind of like got thrown into the pool and figure it out.
Right. School of hard knocks, like make the mistakes. That's how you learn.
Exactly.
That's been the philosophy. Well, we are hoping to cut that down a little bit with Learn to Lend and helping people get into the industry. And, I mean, I think it's good to learn that way, but it's not good forever to learn that way. It's not.
No, and it's a business where, we're handling the biggest purchase, of people's lives, and it is a business that we learn by failure. And sometimes you're really screwing things up where you can really lose somebody's money. And
Right.
that's not a good place to be in. So
Right.
I do think what you guys are doing is great, to help people not have to learn by making huge mistakes.
Right. So how long were you in LOA before you became a full-fledged loan officer?
Yeah, I was in LOA, let's see, from 2002. I left in 2004. I had gotten my DRE license because at the time we had to have the DRE license to do loans or to do real
Really?
estate. And I was young. I was 24 in 2004 and was like, okay, my friends aren't really going to use me to buy a house. They're not buying houses yet. Their parents aren't going to use me. So I actually became a wholesale rep.
Oh,
And
okay. I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And so I was a wholesale rep from 2004 to 2008 because the market in wholesale started to shift in kind of '07.
Yeah.
And I started to see some writing on the wall of probably the companies I was working for were not going to be in business. Um, but the good thing about being a wholesale rep is I had to really learn guidelines and I
Yeah.
had to really understand pricing because I was working for an Alt-A lender where I was doing a lot of price quotes by kind of by hand, like at the rate. I had to do a bunch of calculations and stuff. So that really helped me to understand how pricing works and get a grip on that.
Yeah.
And again, doing Alt-A stuff where we kind of fit into the regular conforming box, but some of the stuff was somewhat subprime. I really had to know guidelines and which investors we were selling to and stuff. So, and then when I saw the market was going to be shifting, I went to work for one of my best clients at the time, who was an originator, and he did a lot of investment property business and was doing a lot of stuff out of state. And so I teamed up with him and that business, I think at the beginning of '08 is when we got together. And then that is about the time that Fannie Freddie shifted from allowing like you could have over 10 finance properties and they took it down to like four.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like our entire business model blew up.
Oh,
And
right.
yeah, and he decided to go back to school and be a pastor. And I was doing some processing for old clients of mine because I have the skills to process. So I was like, okay, let me make some money and process, because I didn't have a database because I had been in wholesale. I didn't have the past clients. I didn't have realtors. I didn't know any realtors. So I once he left, I got recruited into Big Valley and to go sit in house at a real estate office. And that's kind of where I really went and I guess put fuel to the fire on my
Yeah.
origination business.
Yeah. Well, I want to focus a little bit on the guidelines and the pricing because
Mhm.
it is hard. I think that is the difference. And that's kind of what cuts some people out. They don't get it, or you can tell very easily that somebody doesn't know, what they're talking about. Or
Mhm.
what would you recommend for a new loan officer to learn guidelines? Like, do you have what do you recommend to new people? Are they doing it every morning? Pick a guideline. Like, what would be something they could do?
The thing that's hard, like I feel it's hard, and a former boss, always would say to people like, yeah, you got to read guidelines every day. You got to read guidelines every day. And while it's true, it's the scenario of the
Right.
whole thing that it's easier to apply, I feel, and remember when you know the scenario. So I would probably tell people to, close friends and family, like if they're willing to share some information, like even though you may not do a loan for them, like go through the steps as if you're going to do a loan for them. Like
Right.
take their application, have them give you their documentation, and see how to calculate things. And, okay, that's where you start to come up with just the weird one-off things that don't
Yeah.
make sense, or
Yeah.
you see a piece of documentation of like, oh, your hourly that you make, that's not your year to date isn't in line. What's going on? So that's where you start to learn how to go, like what you need to go look up and
Right.
stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, I would say do a combination of trying to get some real life scenarios. And quite frankly, I am a believer, and probably because I started this way, of if someone's wanting to start in the business, like try to become some sort of loan officer assistant, because seeing the files, working with someone that has files where you can have the repetition
Right.
is really big.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's huge. And I think it's important because I feel like when you're in it in the beginning, you don't know what to do. And you're like, I have my license, I should be an LO. But to get that
Hmm.
advice, like no, being an LOA, there's stepstones in this business. Like you even
Hmm.
said, like being a rep helped you,
Yeah.
So, and everybody you talk to who has been in this business for any amount of time has worn a lot of hats.
Hmm.
We've done a lot of things, and you kind of, that's the beauty and the curse of the industry, I think, is there is so much that you can do. And I think that's why people stay, because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that thing didn't work out for me, but now I'm, this really great processor, or I do docs, or so
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast, which I absolutely love. And I think it's really important because I always tell people mimic. You know what I mean? Get a mentor and copy them, or find somebody online that you're like, wow, they're really great, or they're doing really great business, and kind of copy what they're doing.
Hmm.
But it's hard to get, like explanations. And that's why your podcast, I think, is so good, is because you understand it. Our,
Hmm.
people are so into script.
Hmm.
Everybody's like, give me a script, give me a
Yeah.
script. And then they just regurgitate a script. But like what I'm excited about and why I'm excited to share your podcast with our new loan officers is because you are not getting a script, you're understanding it. So then you can explain it your own way. You're not just, regurgitating it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your podcast. So how did the podcast come about?
And it's funny you say that about scripts. Like I've always said, like I am not a script person. Like I kind of hate them.
Yeah.
But I had a coach one time be like, "But wait, you explain the same thing over and over, right? That's a script." So
Yeah.
like if anyone thinks that like me of like, "Oh, I hate scripts," like really, it's just what you explain over and over as a script.
Yeah.
Um, okay, podcast. What's funny right now in us having this conversation, I'm like, I was talking with my podcast guys, and I'm like, I need to get back on doing more episodes because I had to put a pin in it for a little bit, but you're inspiring me to circle back and keep doing it. So thank you for that.
Of course.
It really that comes from figure out what you're good at, right? Or what you're passionate about. And I'm passionate about education. And I have always said, like, if I could have a job and just do it, like money was no object, I'd be some sort of professor. Like, because I love teaching. And so that is really where it came from. And then I love listening to podcasts, but I don't like listening to long podcasts. And so
Right.
I was like, okay, we have so much to talk about that's so helpful for homeowners, for agents, for, new loan officers. And we have so many facets of what goes into a loan and components and, stories of why things can work or not work that I was like, we can take this and break it down into bite-sized chunks and, make it understandable for people.
Right.
And I did it just because I'm passionate about those things. So,
Yeah. Well, I was going to say our industry really overcomplicates things.
mhm.
I feel like, and you don't know that when you get in, right? You take the NMLS 20 hours and you're like, oh, okay. And then you get in and it's like what you think isn't what you thought. And so I kind
Mhm.
of want you, what are your thoughts on how we as an industry like overcomplicate things? Like, why do we do that? Why do we make it so complicated?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I don't know if it's because there's so many different ways to get to the same result, maybe, or different
Yeah.
approaches, right? And
Right.
so, but like what we talk about, what works well for one person's not going to work well for another.
Right.
Um, but it's really, when I think of a loan, it's actually at this point, given I'm what, almost 20, I'm 24 years in, um, they're really simple because they're kind of, it's all the
Right.
same, right?
Right.
I mean, it's credit, income, you know, assets and the property, right? It's like kind of those four main components. Um, and we shouldn't overcomplicate it, but I think because there's so many pieces and people involved in every aspect of the transaction, I think that's why it gets overcomplicated
Yeah.
because, you know, you have the borrower, you have the loan officer, you have the processor, you potentially have the assistant, you have the escrow, you have real estate agents, you have the underwriter, you have the investor, you
Right.
know, and there's so many people that are so many hands in the file.
Yeah.
That I think that's why that creates some of the complications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
And I
people.
think,
The people
yeah,
always complicate all the
yeah,
things, right?
yeah,
Well, and again, what I love about your podcast is that you make those complicated things very simple. And so I
mhm,
kind of want to figure out like how do you come up with your topics and like, how do you I don't want to say dumb it down, but how do you like explain it in a way that like is easy for just all people to understand? Because people not everybody can do
yeah,
that and you do it really well.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's something maybe that's come with experience of basically like I don't know, pick a topic, but you know, maybe I've had a lot of experience trying to explain that over and over, right?
Yeah.
And so like, okay, I've figured out which way gets through to clients, you know,
Yeah.
more easily than others. And I try to always remember like I know this is my language, but it is not the other person's language. And I've got to make that as simple and, you know, straightforward as possible. I even like it when I can make it visual. I actually use a lot of video in my business because that does help.
Yeah.
Of course, with the podcast, I don't have the YouTube component yet, so it's
Yeah.
not visual, and that's, you know, I need to do that. But um, I really just try to think of like if I can explain it to, well, it has to be older than a young child, but like a teenager and they can get it. Like I
Yeah.
need to go for that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
important stuff that
yeah,
our young people need to know. So
yeah,
if
because
they can understand it, that's good.
like I would love for by the time my kids are graduating high school, like I honestly think so much of the stuff that we deal with in the loan world of understanding finances and budgeting and buying a
Mhm.
loan, that should be taught in school, you know,
Right.
but who knows? We'll see if that happens. Because it's real life necessity. In
Yeah.
terms of the topics, I mean, I had sat down and brainstormed, like really looking at the different components and like what are frequently asked questions that I get, you know, and what do I come across in files that are like, you know, the weird one-offs. Questions that I get from agents, I mean, or people that listen to podcasts, like, oh, hey, I'd love to hear about this, you know, and those
Yeah.
are just different ways I've come up with different topics.
Yeah. I love it. And you cover more than just basics, right? You
Mhm.
are getting into things like self employed borrowers,
Yeah.
tax strategies, divorce scenarios. And again, if you are new to the industry, you are not getting that information. You're going to stumble upon it when you're talking to
Mhm.
somebody, but having that information is so great. Again, I love that it's short, it's to the point, it explains everything. And we are literally going to be your biggest promoters of your podcast because I just think it is a masterclass for understanding the industry. And yeah, we're just excited.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
thank you.
so let's move on kind of to our new loan officers. So what do you think new loan officers, you said you're passionate about education. So what do you think new loan officers are should be focusing on in that first 6 months to a year?
Hmm. I'm like, there's so many
I
things.
know, I know, I know.
Don't get discouraged.
That's a big one.
I mean, for real on that, like protect your mindset. So it definitely hang out with the right people, not Debbie Downers. It always comes down to so track your numbers, your metrics, right? And when you're new, it's it's going to come down to how many people are you talking to. I mean, that is literally what it comes down to is how many people are you having conversations with? And I've always been, I mean, to this day, I track my leads, I track who they come from, I tracked how many apps. I track my dials when I'm dialing a lot, how many people I actually have conversations with, because you need immediate business, right? And I tell people when they start in the business, you probably won't see your first loan for 4 to 6 months. And I think one thing, and maybe this is a topic that you guys cover or something, but I think understanding how to structure your day, because when you're new and you don't have a loan to work on, you're like, what do I do?
Right.
And so coming up with an effective structure of your day, which honestly, a majority of your day when you're new should be probably in lead generation activities, right?
Right.
Um, and and education, but definitely lead generating. But yeah, I think that that's the thing to focus on. I also would say don't spend money. Like, do not spend money on leads is my opinion. Now, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's other people that are going to tell you, yeah, go out and buy leads, because I understand that that's, you're looking to make some immediate, return on investment. But I would say do as much as you can with as little dollars out of pocket. And
Right.
which really they always say, what's free? Your cell phone,
Yeah.
and you have a database of people in there, and it's getting out of your comfort zone and calling them and telling them what you're doing, and then even get a few to let you, like I said, even if they don't need a loan, but maybe they want to help you, like, hey, could you be someone that just helps me as if we are doing a loan so I can just learn,
Yeah.
I so those would be, yeah, lead generation.
Well, and it's funny because I do remember doing a business planning session with you in the branch, and it has stuck with me. And that backing into the numbers,
Hmm.
saying, I want to close, 50 loans this year. And you had this form, and you were like, okay, you have to make this many calls, you have to do this, you have to do
Yep.
this. And I remember backing into it and then seeing that number, and you're like, it then becomes doable,
Yeah.
but I don't think everybody does that. And
No.
so there you're like, I mean, I think that is just such a huge, huge takeaway is just understanding that piece of it. So,
And if you don't have that, Bobby, I can send that to you too. I
oh,
I, I still have that as a,
yeah,
like, on a Word doc kind of thing.
yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
would love
and
it.
yeah, because it's overwhelming otherwise. But if you tell yourself, like, and I always, like, I go off of whatever I want to make for the year, and if you're a new loan officer, and I mean, if you can make six figures your first year, you were crushing it. And so,
Yeah,
if you put that on there, you actually be surprised. That does not take that many conversations. Now, yes, when you're newer, your conversion ratios are going to be lower. But still, it doesn't take as, it just makes it more achievable of, okay,
right.
I need to talk to 5 people a day or 10 people a day,
Yeah, yeah.
and okay, that's easier than like, oh, I got to talk to 50 people this week,
Right. And you're not, that's not connected to anything.
Yeah,
Like if you can have a seed and you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing, you're
yeah,
more likely to do it than just show up and be like, okay, what should I do today?
yeah.
I love that. Yes, please. I will share that form and I will
Okay.
ping you every time. The other thing I wanted to kind of ask, and this is an idea I've had, is you mentioned database.
Mhm.
And I do onboarding and I've been in training forever. And one thing that I notice when loan officers come to a new company is there is this issue of database, right? Because companies offer you a database when you go to that company. And it's always a nightmare because loan officers are not keeping their own database. They just rely on the company database.
Mhm.
I think it is really important that as a loan officer, especially if you're starting, because now you can start all these good habits, is
Yes.
to have your own database that like you manage behind whatever company you're at database that they have.
Hmm.
Would you agree with that? Or do you, I mean, is there like a spec, like how do you maintain that database? Because it's so important. I don't think it's highlighted enough.
I'm like, I 100% agree with it. And I can tell people, like, I'm having a good year right now. And this is by no means a good year kind of market, right? We thought it was going to be when the year started. And I could I can hands down say the reason for that is because of how I have adamantly kept a database and kept my database clean and kept the consistent marketing to my database. When you were brand new, that is the easiest time, right? Because
Right.
like you start it, like you
Right.
don't have anything that you have to manage in there. So
Right.
um the value of the database is gold. And I do think so when I moved over to Empire, that is when they offer a database
Yeah.
that I did plug into. And then they had moved to a different enterprise solution and I plugged into that as well. And then when they moved away from it, I actually kept it. And I am now of the mind, just like you've said, like if I were to move to another company, I am keeping my own database because now I've got it customized, I've got it triggered, like everything tagged
Right.
the way I want it to be and things like that.
Right.
Um, and so taking the time now, like, because like I started really tracking my data and like tagging my clients and things like that all,
Yeah.
years ago. And so it made when I made the move to another company, it makes that so much easier
Right.
because
And
you're
you're
like,
gonna
it's
move
all clean.
companies. I mean,
Yeah,
it is a thing. It happens, right? You grow, you change, you do whatever. So like, yeah, the database I feel like is so important, even if it's just an Excel spreadsheet or if
exactly.
you buy something, but just own your data because
Yeah,
you're going to get to a point when you have a 20, 25, 30, 40-year career and you can do something with that later, right? That is like yours. That is
yeah.
that's your loan officer
Well,
life.
and you got to think from our perspective, we're in a business that we don't have, I mean, yes, we set up 401ks and things like that, but we don't have like a retirement plan, right? Well, you keep that data and you keep it clean. You have an option to sell that to somebody
Right.
and have someone buy your book of business. I mean, that's a great, and it doesn't happen,
Right.
like it does not happen in this business.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things that could happen with our next generation of loan officers that I don't even think were options for us
Yeah.
or with this kind of generation that's aging out. And one of the other things we want to do here at Learn to Lend is we want to team up new originators with people that are trying to get out, but they have that book of business, right? And make
Mhm.
those connections because there isn't really a place for that either, right? People are
Right.
just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll get out. But it's like they have, that book of business. So
Mhm.
there's just all these good things that, if you could start over today, I mean, we've kind of talked about them from the database, but like with the knowledge that you have now, like what are, some things that are like non-negotiables? You're like, I would do this, this, and that if you started.
Um, Okay, yeah, database for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I live I live and die by my calendar, but I run a very structured day, which I actually think that's the opposite of that is what a lot of loan officers do, where they don't run a structured day and they just like we love the freedom, right? I run a 9 to 4, basically, except pick my kids up schedule. And that is like clockwork. And I think that that's something for people to not like, don't take for granted the freedom that we have and just come in and like be willy nilly or go lead generate. You get a couple deals, oh, yay. And then just take your foot off the gas. Like, no, you need to run it like a business to where it's 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever you want your chunk of time to be, but you need to run it like a business and run put yourself on a schedule, and know what you're doing from hour to hour, basically.
Right.
I mean, yes, people would call it time blocking, which, yeah, like I essentially time block, but I just don't put it on my calendar, though if
Yeah.
people are not good with that, they should. I'm just good
Yeah.
with it because I'm,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but that would definitely run a structured day. Don't take the freedom for granted. Um, what would be another thing? Database. I mean, I guess I would say like just get ready to get out of your comfort zone. Like be okay to get out of your comfort zone. Like I hate calling people. I feel like I'm bugging them. I mean I hate it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do it. And I think some of the best things I've heard of, like, every no is, it's just getting you ready for a yes. Like, you have to hear the no's to get to the yes. And like, don't take it personally. And I think those are the things. And then I would tell, like, not that you asked me this, but like, just advice I would give to newer people of like, if you always operate from a standpoint of you're going to do right by the client and do right for the consumer and do what's in their best interest, I feel like business will always come to you. Because if you are just telling them the truth, like, this is, I have, like, right now people ask all the time, should I buy down the interest rate? Oftentimes the answer is no, because it doesn't make sense, and like, just being really honest with people and breaking down the math of things of like, this is why, then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're not just trying to sell me on something, because they
Right.
still think like we're going to make money from that or something,
Yeah. There you
and
go.
yeah, and I'm super transparent, especially in the broker world where, sometimes we have to go borrower paid. So you got to show what the commission is and whatnot. And I'm transparent with people, like, this is what we make. And when I'm doing it this way, like, this is what I'm making. And so, and I don't get any pushback. Like, they're very like, okay, yeah, you're making this work for me. Great. So I think that has always been something that has helped me in the business. And so I would really encourage people to just keep that top of mind.
Well, I love that. And I feel like that's such a good way to start closing up. But I did want to close with how can we find you, your podcast, and how can we stay connected?
Yeah, my website, heatherhunterjackson.com, has my links to my socials and the podcast. The podcast is on Spotify and Apple, which is really where most people get their podcasts, right?
Right.
Um, and then, yeah, and then really just my website. It has all my information and everything.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours and hours, and I am so excited to, just be reconnected with you, promoting your website. I can't wait to get that document, because literally it was a moment for me in my career that I was like, okay, this is a legit tool.
Hmm.
And so just thank you for your time. We're so excited. Make sure that you subscribe to the show and the podcast. We've got so much more coming for you guys, and we'll see you on the next Combos with More. Thank
Awesome. Thanks,
you.
Bobby.